basically TOGAF will have like 34 modules. So each module will cover some of the topics related to TOGAF. And we'll also have like enterprise architect. So basically TOGAF, it is nothing but it's a framework, right? So there are
Yep.
processes, there are like a lot of agile and all those processes are there in place. But for architecture, there is no particular framework or process that we follow. So we just have one architecture. Basically, people nowadays don't go with the architecture kind of things, right? So people like when you get a requirements, you'll directly go create an epic, do stories and finish it, deliver it. So, but TOGAF, it doesn't work that way. So you see the projects as an architecture projects, more of not a developmental kind of projects, not a what to say. It's a client oriented project. We take some requirements, we deliver it. It's not like that. So the main advantage of doing TOGAF practice in your project is basically to have a path. If suppose tomorrow, if anything is going wrong or beyond your control, you can actually reiterate, revisit easily, right?
Yep.
So that is how we have to see TOGAF as. It's not like something we have like steps. Each steps will have versionings and everything, and it will be very easy for you to revisit the part in case of any means the require. For example, there is a requirement change. All those things like we can go back and we can like create, we can update it, and it's all very easy.
Yep.
So yeah, so about this is like you have like TOGAF Foundation, TOGAF Certified. There are two levels to it. So basically TOGAF Certified, TOGAF 9 or TOGAF 10 Certified is basically the foundation plus certified. Okay, so there are also people who do only foundation, then they upgrade to certified. But it's very in my angle or point of view, it is good like we complete both of them so that we have a wider picture. Foundation is basically totally concepts and theoretical things. Certified is basically it's a part two kind of thing where you will have scenario based things. Like for example, you have this project scenario, this uh, experiment, and you have to implement OGAF at that point of time. So how will you do it? So that kind of a thing is TOGAF 9 level 2 certified. And bridge is nothing but like people would have done TOGAF 8. But TOGAF 8 is very different from TOGAF 9. So what people ideally do is they don't actually revisit the whole thing. They just do a bridge course, which actually they make a transition to TOGAF 9, not having to do the entire thing like foundation and 30.
Got it.
Yeah. So you can like interrupt me anywhere you want. Like it's not going to be
so
one way also.
Can I ask one question here?
Yeah.
So we, and maybe me, I'm overcomplicating it, but there was two certificate, TOGAF 9 and TOGAF 10. Is this 9 or I thought I paid for TOGAF 10? I don't know what the difference is, but
No, yeah. So this is like basically TOGAF 9, which I prepared the course of. So there is no big difference. It is just that Agile is come to picture in TOGAF 10.
Okay.
So I will be telling you like what are the differences. So TOGAF 9 is completely the foundation. So if you know TOGAF 9, like you can actually crack the exam of TOGAF 10. It's going to, I'll like list you the differences between TOGAF 9 and 10 in the upcoming
Okay,
slide.
got it.
Yeah,
Okay,
means
thanks.
in the upcoming, like after we complete the 9, we will move on to like what are the differences, what is the addition in TOGAF 10.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So this I said, like foundation training is there, certified training is there. You can do a foundation and then upgrade to a certified training. And if you have done 8, you can actually do a bridge course to actually upgrade yourself to TOGAF 9. So basically, the TOGAF structure is 9, 9.2, 10. So 10 is nothing but it comes along with the agile practice. Because TOGAF 9 doesn't talk anything about the agile practice. but nowadays we are like actually moving out to an agile environment, and we have also transitioned to SAFe. So it is necessary for us to have the connection between those two. So that is why Open Group came up with TOGAF 10. So as I said that these are two levels, and if I have to tell you that level 2 is basically a superset of level 1. Like you can see that the foundation is there. So certified is nothing but scenario based, like wherein you will learn like how to handle a scenario using TOGAF, and the foundation is basically the process that you will learn theoretically, and certified is basically applying it.
Got it. And just curious, so from certification wise, we just two different certificate, right? Either we can give both together or give individually
We'll do
separately,
both
right?
together only.
Okay.
We have so it's basically 3 hours exam, and you'll have you can actually divide yourself, like you will have a couple of questions, and foundation and certified are both together.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So you can complete one so foundation and certified later, or certified at first you can complete certified and then foundation. Foundation is basically completely theoretical questions. Certified is
Okay,
completely scenario based questions.
got it. Okay.
Yeah. This is how I said, like you will have TOGAF 8 certified, yes, you will have bridging options to move to 9. Or if you don't have it, you can actually do a foundation training and certified. So
Got it.
that is how it is. If not, like you again do a certified, but you have in the center, right? Level 1 and 2. That is what I have done.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So there is completely no prerequisite for this course. People do say that we have to have a 5 years of experience for this, because after 5 years only you'll have a view. You'll actually grow in the system to a lead or an arc, or set up your career path, right?
Correct.
So that is why they say. But from open group perspective, there is no prerequisite. So you will ideally have to attend this training, and you will have practice questions and answers, like which I'll share it to you in the later point of time. And then after all those things, you can actually have to go and schedule the exam in the Prometric test center, where you can actually go and write, or it can also be online, both.
Got it.
And yeah, so upon the completion of exams, like you'll be having the certification with you, whether it's 9 or 10. Sorry that I have only 9 everywhere written, because there's a post and I have read 2 years back.
No,
So I've not
no, fair
updated.
enough. I think that's, as long as you're sharing the differences and at the end, I'm good.
Yeah. So basically, the objective of this course is actually going to be what is actually an enterprise architecture. Like you'll be learning the features of TOGAF. You'll be learning how you will use TOGAF in your work, and you basically have a knowledge. Also taking up exam. If you have all these, like you can definitely take up the exam well. So that is how it's going to be.
Okay.
And we'll have a target audience kind of things, like where, for example, TOGAF 9, right?
Yep.
TOGAF 9 foundation will be who and all have the basic things to take. It can be individuals who can take. It can be people who are like working in roles such as architects, or people who are there in the delivery thing also, who are there in the development also. So when I took TOGAF, I was an IC, but I could relate it because I was also involved in architectural things. I was a bridge gap between the development and the product. So eventually, you will have an idea of like where you will actually implement it. You'll have a bigger picture, right?
Yep.
So that is how it is. So architects, definitely, I'll recommend to do this. And if you want to do it, implement it in your organization, it is definitely a stepwise approach only. But yes, you can definitely do it, but it cannot happen in one single day or something. You have to actually, when I started implementing, I went with a demo, like what I am going to do in this project. For example, we are working in a project. It will look very huge to implement it, but you can go and say that, boss, I will implement this for a module and see how it works. Because it can be find in a module level also. Even a module can have requirements. Even a module can have changes. Even a module can have means additional features. So you can actually tell the company that I want to do this. I think that way, bottom up, it is working.
Got
that is, yeah. So I'm also explaining you along with the experiences, because you'll have a very good picture about it. So these are the things that we are going to cover in the foundation course. And this, so as I said, that who are all can do this. Basically, professionals, architects, and individuals also can do it. So it basically has like 5 parts to it. So the first part will be having a very brief overview of what the core TOGAF concepts are, what are the architectural development method is something you'll be hearing it every now and then, because that is the core of TOGAF actually.
Yep.
And the part 2 will basically contain of like the business architectural things, the developmental phases, like what we are going to have according to the ADM's guidelines.
Okay.
Part 3 will basically have like 3-4 structures. Like it will have the applications architecture, it will have the technology architecture, it will have a data architecture. And part 4 will have the transition planning. For example, if you are having a product, you want to move on from a Google Cloud, from a GCP to AWS, and you are having extra features over there. So it is that kind of planning, which is very heavy. You will actually have it in the transition kind of plan. And architecture governance is something which is basically nothing but a rules and regulations you set for an architecture, because you cannot keep on changing your architecture. You can just tweak it slightly. You cannot go and say I'm completely disowning this and I'm establishing something new. No, you'll have some base. Even if you move from GCP to AWS, it's not like completely you're going to remove it. So we have a basic enterprise architecture, right? So for those things, like for not having an entire change or for having a history of changes, you will actually have to follow some guidelines or rules and regulations, which is nothing but architectural governance. And part 5, it's basically going to be the adoption of this ADM and how this framework is actually going to work. So if you see this is basically, we call it as an ADM or something. So which is like we'll have a preliminary phase wherein the requirements will be there. The vision, business architecture, system architecture, technology. So these are all combined, and we'll say this as an architectural development method. So this you can see is that the architecture, vision, business architecture, everything is connected, right? But in TOGAF 10, the difference is that you can actually you don't have arrows between the architecture, vision, business architecture, and all those things. So it is going to be a process wherein you can actually remove and insert like that. So it's not going to be, it has to go from architecture vision to business architecture, this to this, because at any point of time in Agile, you can have changes, right?
Correct.
So that time you cannot say, no, means the client emergency is there, the client will say this and that. So you cannot always have this space. If you come to information system architecture, in TOGAF, you should actually go through that process, D, E, F, G, H. So in 10, it's not like that. It's very flexible. But you will have connection from requirements management to everything, but you will not have connections in between. So that we can what to say? We can partition everything and we can actually deal agile. So for dealing with agile only, this kind of things they have made. So that is the difference. So I'll anyway explain when I'm seeing this in detail. But I just want to tell you once.
Got it. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. So these are the contents that we are going to see. You'll have 5 parts to it. We'll be seeing all those 5 parts in 9 weeks of course time. And regarding the material, so you will have Varharen.net. You'll get uh, this pocket guide also from there, and you can also download there from. You'll have TOGAF 10 edition. You can also get that. So I got the book from a library and used, and I just had this notes from the thing, and whatever I needed it concept wise, I took a Xerox. So that is how I did. If that works at your place, you can definitely do that rather than going and investing so much, because it's little costly and it's not needed. Like every time you're not going to take the book and like see. So it's just going to be everything in your mind when you come across.
Got it.
So we'll move on like open group. So it's nothing but they have only like offered this TOGAF. So they are nothing but it's a company, a vendor company consortium. So where organizations rely upon them for developing certain standards. So like that only TOGAF has also emerged. And so the open group, it actually provides the guidance like and an open environment to ensure vendor neutrality, because they'll have a lot of vendors. For example, open group has IBM as a main vendor. So we'll just move on. So the outcomes you will definitely know. It's they'll provide a management overview of like what TOGAF is. They'll discuss the mission. They have a forum, like architecture forum. Even after you finish TOGAF, there will be some architectural forum which will be which you'll be part of. So which will for example, you are facing something while doing the TOGAF, or you feel some inputs you have to give to them or something. So that they actually accept actually, and they will ask you like what are the reasons, what is the thing you have implemented, what is the do's and don'ts, and they will make changes and everything uh, according to this architectural forum also. Along even though they have a set of group of people, they will have group of people who are there from small, medium, and large scale enterprises also all over the world. So that is there. So basically, their vision is to have a boundaryless information flow, which they actually say. So it's nothing but like you will have to achieve a boundaryless. It is like it does not mean that there's no boundary and all those things. It is that you have to be adaptable to changes. So you should not be having a strict boundary, so which will not allow us to implement interoperability and all those things. So that is where their vision ideally lies when they were starting to have TOGAF. So they faced a lot of challenges because it's a shortened representation of access to information to support the business process improvement. So when you have an improvement plan, it is definitely going to means what to say. You're creating a framework. It will definitely have positives and negatives, right? Some business will not be able to enable it. Some businesses will be able to enable it. So the achievement of the open group is actually it will provide an interoperability feature. It is nothing but an attribute, right? Like wherever you go, you should be able to implement this TOGAF. You should not be able to create boundaries. You should actually create a boundaryless architecture and environment for this to enable business. That is what is their key feature when they started to have this forum. Right? Like open group is nothing but a collection of people from the industry. It is not like started by someone who inspires to be. It is actually basically the combination of small scale industry people. For example, you and me sit together, discuss the flaws like you are facing and I am facing. So I come up with a framework. Then how it will be? We come up with a framework. How it will be? So that is what TOGAF is. You understand?
Yep.
So that is how
Yes.
open. It is not like a company full thing. It is actually a group of people. It is nothing but a forum only. It is not like what a company they are doing products now. It's not. People from all over the world who has worked in IT, who has come forward and put up this, and whatever they have brainstormed what are the things they are facing, and they have come up with this. So, and mission is of the open group, as I said, they work with customers actually. So, people from open group work with IBM to like they'll understand their requirements, like what is happening. TOGAF is not. It is not only for the product. Okay? For example, we are doing a product for a client. It is not only that. Even the policies, right?
Yep.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I'm
even
listening.
for example, in a company, you will have an induction. So that is a process, right? So even in that,
Yes.
you can implement. It is because that is also a process. Wherever the process comes into picture, you will definitely need a framework to implement. So that kind of things also open group does. So they have TOGAF even implemented in procurement.
Yep.
So that is one thing.
Correct. And we get into those forums once we get certified, right?
I'm sorry. Yeah. You will
Okay.
definitely have the forum access. You will be the alumni for the open group, and you will be able to access. You will have a mail ID, means ID and a password and everything, and you'll have it.
Yep.
So that is one thing. So tackling. So as I said, it's not very easy for us to like go and implement something very easily in an enterprise, right? So they have some methods to like tackle this, like how we are going to implement this concept. So the open group has been working with several areas for this. Okay, so that is why they have listed like first is like enterprise architecture, second it's cloud computing. So for each these are all called subject areas, right? For each subject area, it will provide us several services. So, for example, they'll provide white papers, they'll provide standards, they'll provide product and service certifications, they'll provide people and professional certifications. So, all those things.
Got it.
So TOGAF certification falls under professional certifications.
Correct. And does open group has other certifications that you think could be helpful apart from TOGAF?
So there is something called Archimate, which is also there. So if you do Archimate and TOGAF 10, it's like a very big thing. It's like you'll have a very big badge. You will automatically get accredited trainer, and see that is also one type of a business model, right? If you think and see, if you're able to educate people on this, right?
Yep.
And implement this at your office, it's going to be a large thing, right? So
Correct.
for me, that only happened. Why I got more interested towards it's something which is really if suppose we study something, but we are not able to implement it, we'll not have interest over it, right? It's just theory
Correct.
and theory. But when you think of the practical implications and all those things, it actually men may feel, yeah, it's good that we educate people on this.
Correct.
This also works. So things like that. So it's so in this will this entire thing is focusing on the enterprise architecture subject area only.
Correct.
That is how it is. So these are some things, some activities that open group has been involved. So as I said, Archimate, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So Archimate is one open group standard certification which you can do, and that is the standard. So when you do that, you will automatically be accredited to a trainer who can actually implement both. So Archimate is nothing but like you'll have a tools which will be helpful for creating architectures, right?
Yep.
So
Oh,
Archimate.
it's important.
So that is Archimate. So TOGAF is a framework only. Archimate is something you design, where you design architecture. So it will have independent languages like how you have Canva for designers,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Same thing.
Yes. Got it.
And these are all the forums open group works with Unix groups, certified. Even if suppose I'm a certified TOGAF person, but they can come back to me and ask like, what are the improvements? What are you facing while implementing? All those things are there. So they work with all these people. So this is their whole work basically, open group. That is why they are not established as a company. They are just people who work for the IT and all these people. They will work with all these people to make their product work well.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. So the forums or work areas I said is like determined by individuals. For example, I work in open group. I'll decide like whom I have to go and talk to and whom I can get out inputs from, all those things. So they provide. What will happen is this forum and work groups, they act as meeting point for the suppliers and buyers. Like suppliers and buyers in sense like the people who want to implement program, right?
Correct.
So each forum is like considered as a separate people operating with work group. The direction for this forums, like as I said, that it can be decided by members. The outputs of these forums are approved by members only. So if suppose the outputs are like satisfactory for us, we will actually approve this and say that yes, this is working. This can be done. So that is how people have framed this actually.
Okay. So
So
it only needs to be approved by that group, not cross
not
group or
that. We
bigger
will
group.
approve. We will approve the output. For
Okay.
example, I say that this TOGAF 9, I'm not able to like. I am going through multiple iterations for a small change. So then they
Okay.
went back and said agile. Okay, so agile plus this will work if we integrate agile, and so that's how 10 came, right?
Okay. Got it.
So this is how they form new areas of work.
Okay.
So,
Makes sense.
and next is like how their members work. So they definitely have collaboration infrastructure to work actually. So they will basically work virtually or over email, teleconference. They'll have two web conferences at US only. I think you can check out a Tech Geek, right? So they put open group conferences. You can attend virtually or in person also. So the activities for these projects and forums are like actually tracked. They also have schedules and milestones, and these are some things which they have a key deliverables. They include development standards. They include professional technical certifications. They encourage us to do this TOGAF and all those things. They encourage us to implement the process and the methodology also. So certification why is because they should have some standard, right? we can also only have theoretical thing and not do certification and go and do things, but that is not how it will work, right?
Correct.
So that is why they encourage us to do the certifications, and they also have quarterly global meetings which are conducted, virtual meetings for all their members. So members, in sense, what I'm mentioning is like the vendors, for example, IBM or your company, they attend these conferences and they come out with like what are the quarterly things that we met and what are the things that we are not able to achieve. So they go work with them. They give solutions, or if they feel that it's practically a difficulty, they will work on that. That is how they grow. So why do customers go and work with open group? Is because they would need to basically build relationships with people to have a standard set in their process. Uh, they can also have contact, because this open group, they also they are not only into IT market. Okay, so they are also into networking groups, manufacturing groups, financial groups, all those things. So they will have, we can also have a contact, right? Can have a network with them. And they have, whatever happens is they have early access to the solutions being developed there. They can also address the immediate issues they are facing, as I said in the forum or something. They have a customer service people who can actually help you out. You cannot say as a customer service, you can say that the people who help the customers out, right, with the problems. So, for example, in the context of IT services, banking firms and all, so they are all termed as a customer. And the consulting firms may be like suppliers like HP or all those things. Got it?
Yep.
Yeah. So next is they have scorecards in multiple streams. They have professional standards, they have methodology standards, and they have software standards. The professional standards is nothing but they focus on the skill development, as I said. They have Open Group Certified IT Specialist Program. They have Open CITS Program. They have Group Certified Architect Program. They also have Architect programs also. They have Open CA Program. They have People Come Professional Level Certification programs also. So they have multiple. So that is their professional standards focus. They will also work on that. Like more people get trained and do the certifications, all those things. And methodology is nothing but they develop standards framework like this, TOGAF, right? All those things. So software standards is nothing but the guidelines on the non-functional areas. For example, manageability, portability, interoperability, all those things are software standards, which they basically do as a software standards. And it can be a non-functional subject areas. It may not be a technical or a functional thing. So that is how this
So
works.
professional, I've gone through that website. So professional methodology and software.
Yeah. So, and as I said, the architecture forum, right? So they have this, as I said, their main goal is to implement boundaryless information flow. And they strive to do this for between enterprises. And they have a set of architectural aspects for this. Like they provide a broad and deep leadership to EA community, enterprise architecture community. So they go and take leadership skill trainings. They go validate, publish, and foster the best practices for an enterprise architecture. They go and organize, they research, and through some thought leaders. For example, you are in a company, you are as a director, right? They if Open Group is involved as a vendor for you, I mean as a means client for you. So they sit with the leaders and they organize and they publish some articles like which you can follow. You can lead to the entire team or projects, right? And they also initiate a lot of programs and projects to support these activities. For example, you're saying that I'm not able to do this. They go and do a POC of what they are actually trying to say and how they will overcome the same situation with that. So that kind of detailing, right? So they do have. So that is a major success for them, I feel. And so these members, like I said, for the architectural forum, will have a early access to all the standards, enterprise architecture standards and best practices, right? As I said. So the stakeholders and things, who are all the stakeholders for this? Means who are all the stakeholders who derive the values from the architecture forums are these things, these people, the architects, the vendors, the solution vendors, the integrators, and the academic or research organizations. So basically, they'll get, for example, you're running a firm, like you can say Simply Learn, right? They are all academic organizations. So they get funding support from them.
Got it.
So, as you know, architects, they get reduced time, cost, and risk because they develop a framework. Definitely, that should happen. So these are all things, not
So,
much to like hold on. To
yeah.
Yeah.
So does this?
So,
Can I ask one question?
yeah. Go ahead.
Does this add too much document? I'm going with in a previous slide that you said is an architect, right? Get reduced time, cost, and risk, right? If you take my example, okay, the system that I'm working on, I know it in and out for now, at least after 14 years. So will this, if I implement this, will this add some sort of override in documentation and other things, and that may impact the deliverables?
It's not about documentation at all. It's actually about, it's not about documentation. It's about like how you manage the requirements, right? For example, you have a requirements, you go through a process that every company will have, right? Even Agile is a process. If you're going and saying it's not a 2 week sprint, it's a 1 week sprint, you should have a proper data of why you're doing this. You should have any of these three qualities, right?
Yep.
You will say that the risk is less in the scenario which I said.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so it's not going to be, actually there is the documentation wise is nothing but you will have some architecture decision records where you will actually definitely you should have this models, right? Like ER diagrams, all those diagrams are there, right? So
Yep.
all these things are also part of documentation only. You go and design a database, you do an architecture for the database, that is also a document. It will have a version. Tomorrow you're going and saying, I'm going to scale this database, so I'm going to do a replica of this. So that is that is the decision which is taken. We are going to do a version 2 of that. So it's going to be from a top to bottom approach, right? So generally how it should work is architects, product should sit together and define all those things. If that is happening, the product person will also be in par with what architects are also designing, and architects also will have a think through a process of what product is thinking. If these people don't sit together, what will happen? Product will say that is very much possible. Architect will say this is not possible because of the so reason, right? So that some clash will be. So that is why what I suggest is record this as a document. With means having an architect and a product person together. Yeah, these are all small things which you will yourself know. Like what is an enterprise, what is an architecture, what is an enterprise architecture. Yeah. So all those things I'm moving on. So there are like this is like something which is also a hardcore. You say that the pillars of TOGAF. So basically, the business architecture will be there, application architecture will be there, data architecture and technology. Okay. So business architecture is nothing but like you'll have a process, you'll have a strategy built, you'll have a rules and regulations built, you'll have a key process. Like for example, I'm deriving a client, I'm acquiring a client means I'll have some business processes, right? I'll have a negotiation process. I'll have a what you can achieve. All those things as a business process.
Yep.
The basic strategy. Data architecture is nothing but like what your organization has a structure.
Yep.
The physical data assets or something. For example, you will have you'll be using a MongoDB in your company, and that is how you have the data management as. So that is what a data architecture talks about.
Okay.
Application architecture is nothing but the blueprint for the individual applications to be deployed. So, for example, the core business process of the organization, right? So all those services, the application architecture will talk. And technology architecture is nothing but it describes the software and hardware capabilities. For example, these include IT infrastructure, middleware, networking, communications, which you are having. So all those standards. So what TOGAF is mainly focusing on is not only a technology architecture, it is also all these four.
Correct.
Together.
So, correct. Can I explain data architecture again? Sorry, I got.
Yeah. So it is nothing but it's an organization's logical and physical data. You will have a data management resource, right? For example, I'll be using Azure for my data management. I'll be using MongoDB for my data management. I'll be using blob storage for my data management. So all these are data management resources. So I'll have only this, and I'll be able to implement only this. And how my TOGAF will allow me to do this.
Got it.
Right. So there are two types to it. Like you have a proper infrastructure and data thing, and then you go to a client and gather its requirements, and you say you'll implement all these according to your infrastructure. Right. So that way, TOGAF is actually designed to support all these four. That is what they are saying.
Got it. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. So why we are having enterprise architecture is like we all know why we have to manage some architecture to actually innovate, to increase our IT revenue, to increase our competitive, for example, the competitive things, right? All those things. And we also need our IT thing to actually have an extended enterprise. For example, I'm building a product. So the enterprise architecture should be the key business to actually extend. For example, I'm doing another business of mine. For example, I'm doing a travel domain business. I'll extend my travel domain business to another business, like say textile business. So, but my enterprise architecture will play a key role for this, right? Because I will be investing so much time on my enterprise architecture, and that will help me actually to help whatever kind of enterprise I'm building, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And why are we having a pressure to actually develop enterprise architecture? Is nothing but we will have to have a rules and regulations, as I said, to follow. And we need to have an enterprise which will actually acquire another enterprise also, right? For example, acquire or split. However it is, we need to have an architecture. That is what it's for. It is very important to have this, to develop an architecture, because tomorrow if somebody acquires, and there are situations which I have faced, like somebody is developing something for the something, and suddenly the client goes out, gives a sudden KT and goes back and is not knowing what it is actually, what is architecture. So that kind of situations is very easy to manage when you have a proper enterprise architecture. Got it?
Correct. Yep. makes sense.
Yeah. So these are all the business benefits you will have, like when you have a proper architecture. So it will definitely, the point 3 is the correct thing to actually tell. It's a reduced risk for future investment, definitely, because I have seen like people like who vendor companies who have like gone without giving KTs, and we don't know the architecture. If you have documented it, all those things will come, right? So that is where our EA plays a role. Uh, that is where it helps us, like building the strategies. And however, when we are planning programs and projects, a business has to ensure that the effort it is targeted on those aspects really matter to us, right? So it adds a strength to the enterprise. So that is what they are saying in a business strategy. That is what they are meaning as a strategy. And they are also having a faster time to like market new innovation also. Like for example, if IT can introduce new technologies and functionality faster to some business areas, then the organization can respond faster, right, in competitive environment. So they can deploy their products fastly. They can collaborate with this other business, and they can be a master in that field. That is why they say it's very important to have an EA, and these are beneficial for us. And but there is also one thing, that the architecture should be reliable, right? So it should actually aid consistency, and should be manageability should be there, and it has a better chance of like implementing the corporate standards, right? So that is how we see the enterprise architecture as. And this is what I was talking about, like governance. Why we need governance is only like uh, so an enterprise architecture is only as good as the decision making framework, right? Established around. So that decision making framework is actually governance framework, right?
Got it.
So it must be supported by a strong why, because it should ensure like the development should be successful, the implementation should be successful, the sustainment, which is the maintenance, should be successful. So it actually depends upon the authority structure and the right participants. As you say, the image you can see, it actually illustrates the organization structure of a TOGAF architecture governance, right? So wherein it describes all the parties involved and their responsibilities in that particular environment. So you have a chief architecture board who are the guidance, giving the guidance to the enterprise architect, and therefore they are like providing uh, ideas and things to domain architects. Like, and generally the CIO or CTO leads the architecture governance practice actually. So they should be
CIO,
responsible.
CEO. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So that is why it is very difficult, I said, right, to have this into an account, the implementation. So
Okay.
IPM is fine, but companies like it is very good that if it is implemented in a startup also, it will be very good. Yeah, we can go and present this and tell the CTO that this is what it is and we can do it. That is how, like, I myself didn't go till CTO, but yeah, I went to the skip level and like said that this will work. Let's try for a module and all those things. So that
So,
type of thing.
okay. So how does normally an enterprise architect work? So let's take an example. I'm in a project,
Mm.
a big implementation. There are different people, right? Enterprise architects is one group, and both are under me, okay? And then there is separate group of functional consultants, right? Leads who will actually implement the process.
Mm.
And the place where I'm struggling is how to merge between these two group, right? Because currently
See,
both works
actually,
independently.
what there are few things, right? So enterprise architecture itself is comprises of three things. You'll have a chief architect, you'll have a enterprise architect, you have a domain architects. So it's it's like a mix of these three.
Okay. So
Because
domain
domain
architect work under enterprise architect.
I'm sorry. Yeah, domain
Domain
architect.
architect.
Yeah,
Okay.
they work under enterprise architecture team. So this architecture team is nothing but chief architects, enterprise and domain architects. Domain architects actually imply business architects, application architects, and data and technical. Normally, what will we say? We'll say that technical architect, solution architect, and enterprise architect, but it is not that way.
And
It
how
is
does that domain architect and implementation project work together?
Yeah,
So
like from
let's
the domain architect, actually, what I was saying is the architects, right? So this
Yep.
develop, you can see this one actually it represents the whole entire enterprise architecture team. So it is only responsible for developing the entire architecture. Okay. So it actually comprises of chief architects, enterprise architects. So a company, project specific architects are different. Project specific
Okay.
architects are only domain architects, which will have a mix of technical architects, business architects, application architects, data architects. Okay.
Yep.
So enterprise architecture team is a separate team itself. It is not project specific. It is a team in a company which will have chief architects, enterprise architects, and domain architects. So
Yep.
they will be mainly responsible for guiding the domain architects on the means they'll develop an enterprise architecture and that they will actually infuse into domain architects who will take who will actually take it to the implementation project cycle, right? You can see here.
Got it.
So that way is only it's connected to the implementation projects. So there is something called as architecture board. Okay, so they
Yep.
actually, you can see it here. So they provide a guidance actually to architects to develop the enterprise architecture. So what type of guidance or how are they powerful is like they are actually approving and controlling authority. So for like architectures, for reusable components, actually we think as a very small picture for a product specific, right? But there are some things which are like very big for an enterprise to reuse. Okay, so for example, we will have some a multi-cloud environment, and we would want to use it for another customer. So all those type of thing, reusable components will be identified by architecture board.
Got it.
And they will have also a right to enforcement of like compliance specific things. They'll have a maturity level to actually do and have a discipline of architecture also within the organization. It's not like anyone can come into the picture. A developer can go and change an architecture. It cannot be like that. So they will have a discipline. Like who can change? Only enterprise architects team can be involved in doing whatever it is. Okay.
Yep.
And whatever decision making you are going to do with regards to the architecture, definitely architecture board is the authority to provide.
Okay.
And they will also be ensuring about the escalation thing, like out of bound decision. For suppose enterprise architects, you actually give guidance to the enterprise architects. There is something which is not in their control, not in their decision making, right? Example, budget. So that type of decisions again they will take. Like what is the decision, right? And you can see a box called implement. Implement is like they is the like entire architectural team, right? It's responsible for implementing the architecture also, right?
Yep.
So it actually comprises of PMO, the implementation project teams. So the architecture board in turn, it provides the implemented related guidance to the PMO also. And several implementation projects will actually arise from an enterprise architecture project only, that team only.
Got it.
So whatever project you're initiating, it will only go through this top-down approach. It cannot go through bottom. That is the main core concept of this. So the PMO person will always have manage all the implementation projects, and that implementation project should conform with the enterprise architecture proposed by the architects, domain architects. So every time they will have a confirmation, and it will go back and forth. So we have an architect in our project, right? Those architects, domain architects as is. So they will have an interaction with these implementation project teams, which will they have confirmation or conformance with the enterprise architecture. And if you can see, deploy is nothing but deploy and monitoring the entire architecture. It is not only a project which is monitored. It is also an architecture itself is monitored, deployed and monitored. So each of the implementation part. So if you can see a big picture, Archimate, right? They put the Archimate is actually deployed and monitored. So each implementation project produces one or more solutions, right? So that are deployed by the operational system teams in the production environment. So the service management team deploys and monitors actually the operational systems. So that is how it is confined, right? So there is something called as an enterprise continuum, which is nothing but it's a logical view of architecture repository, if you can say, a storage or repository, because it actually provides methods for classifying the architecture. Organization specific. There's something called organization specific, right? You cannot go and have architecture which should be common across all the service company product. Each company will have their own regulatory requirements, their own architecture models, their own authority structures. Not every company will have this structure, but the challenge is how do you what are all the SLAs you have, what are the operational level agreements you have. So all these are the enterprise continuum. So it is nothing but a place wherein you get all these views. You can imagine as a confluence, right?
So continuum is just is a grouping of all together in a single place or something like that. So I'm just trying to understand, visualize.
All the architecture for example, your the architecture boards is thinking of reusing some component, right? So that will be present in the architectures of the enterprise.
Correct.
Suppose they are trying to implement a process. They try to implement an agile. So what agile is, what thing is, that is present in the enterprise content if they are already doing it. All the service level agreements, how L1 is handled, how L2 is handled, all those type of things, right? It will definitely be there for every company. So those kind of things are there in the enterprise content. But we will not have visibility to this level of things. But when you go and explore, yes, these are all there. We will have it in terms of a product. Maybe, for example, you have a payroll, Oracle payroll, right? That maintains all the things. It will have an architecture. So that is a process. You will have to log into a payroll system to download your payslip. So that is one process. So all these are all there in this enterprise.
Okay. So is continuum something like a SharePoint? Is it documenting everything and keeping it in one place, or it's other than the documents?
Yeah, it is actually documenting and keeping it in one place. For example, you are storing that Archimate file in this place. So this enterprise continuum can be a storage place. For example, you have a MongoDB separately for this. This is that type of thing. So every company will have this. Not all data are stored in this. Some companies use third-party files.
Okay.
There is something called Tangua, which actually
Tangua,
right?
Okay,
They are all TANQA. So they are all a system who develop payrolls, who do all those things. So they also have a repository kind of thing, which they outsource it to the third party, their clients as a third party tool. So there they say that you can store all these SLAs, you can store your policies, you can store the architectures and all those things. So some systems, some companies use that. So this is something, some kind of storage basically you can think of.
Got it.
So the way they store may be different, and they would not have categorized it to be a enterprise continuum at the same place, but they'll have those in place at various levels.
Got it.
Yeah. So normally, what governance means, like it's you don't have to like think at a very big level. It's just rules and protocols for making architecture decisions. That's it, and it is governed by an authority called architecture. That is how it is. So architecture board means you can think something of like a VP or a director of product, whoever it is,
Okay.
who can actually be accountable and responsible for a decision making process.
Got it.
Yeah. So we'll move on. We'll see what is architecture framework. So as per, if you can take a definition, it's just a structure used to develop, implement, and sustain an architecture, enterprise architecture, right? So it is just a foundational structure. It can have a set of structures also, which can be used for like developing a broad range of architecture. It is not like only one. It is a set of structures. So it should actually, what it should actually describe, it should actually have a it's a method for designing the target state of an enterprise, right? In terms of like building a set of building blocks, like how this block is fit together, right? For example, I have an enterprise architecture for a onboarding process. So you'll have a lot of steps, right? Into onboarding, you'll have induction, you'll have trainings, right? It's a long process. So what actually this foundation structure is doing, the architecture framework is doing, like it is collecting all those set of structures. It will define a broad range of structures and it will say that this is how it is. So it an architecture framework, it will contain a set of tools and it will provide a common like vocabulary, you can say. Vocabulary, why I'm saying is the whole enterprise will understand. If you use a term in a company, the whole company should understand that, right?
Correct.
So an architecture framework, if you speak, the whole company should understand what it is actually.
Correct. Can I ask one question, and maybe it's a generic question? So, and for certification, right? What sort of question comes? Do I need to just by heart these definitions, or it's if I understand the concept, it's just multiple options?
You just see foundational, as I said, it's completely theory. Whatever I'm saying, you can actually these are all there in the TOGAF 10 book also. Like whatever I'm saying, this is how the modules are set. You will study only in this order.
But do we need to by heart this, or it's if you understand the concept, you will be able to crack it?
Multiple choice questions.
Oh,
If you
multiple choice
actually,
questions. Okay.
yeah. It is not this one. It is only multiple choice questions.
Okay, got it. So I don't need to buy it as long as I understand the concept.
Yeah,
I should be able to crack it,
the
right?
concept, you are very well done.
Okay, got it.
And second, I said it's scenario based. You can definitely crack it very easy.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So the value of framework, it's nothing but like you know, right? What is the value you get from a framework?
Correct.
It is just a starting point.
It's set of rules, common rules which everybody can understand and build
Correct.
upon.
Yeah.
That.
So it can actually help you avoid the initial panic of where should I start, what is the system, what is the scale of the task it will become, and all those concerns will go away, right? You
Correct.
can, if you have a framework. So that is how they are saying. So it captures what others have found to work actually, and it is also about reusing. The main reusing thing is actually good in this. So this is what I said. it's a very important term in TOGAF. So this is called architecture development method.
ADM.
So, yeah, ADM, right? So ADM is nothing but it's a framework. So architecture framework, it provides this enterprise architecture development method. So in the image, you can illustrate this is what TOGAF enterprise architecture development method is. So it provides a general method for development, implementation, and sustainment. So if you see, people will say TOGAF as a tool also, as a vendor also, as a technology neutral thing. So because it aims to like actually reinventing this wheel. This is called a wheel. So it actually encourages reuse as much as possible. And the main thing for this is like it will align the business and IT, which is just the point where everyone thrives, right? The
Yep.
alignment of business and IT alignment. So that is done in a very so it's like not always like doing a rework or going back and forth. It allows us to follow a best practice and that everyone can follow, whatever kind of domain industries are that it can follow. So and it is actually available as under free perpetual license only, and it provides a TOGAF free of charge to the organization for their own internal non-commercial purpose. The open group, right?
Yep.
So that is how it is, and it's an that it is used across domains: finance, banking, manufacturing, insurance, healthcare. Wherever you go, you can implement this, and it is also complementary to other frameworks. Also, it does not compete with PMP, Prince2, Zachman, all those things. It can actually work with those. It is not competing though, but it can work with frameworks like PMP, right? So this is pretty much of like uh, what is this ADM is basically why TOGAF provides this, and you can see that this is the origination of TOGAF. So why it is need? So it is actually developed and maintained by the members of Open Group, as I said, and it's a customer initiative. As I said, it's not a company initiative; it's a customer initiative, right? And it's a according to TOGAF, there is no one size fits all architecture. That is what is the main thing. It says it actually provides a means to like tailor across the needs of architecture. It will not say this is only the thing. Every company should use only this architecture. It's not like that. So it tailors according to the need of the architecture. That is the main advantage. So if you see that the version was developed in 95, it was based on technical architecture. Okay. So the US Department of Defense actually gave the open group explicit permission to create a TOGAF by building on them, which itself was the result of many years of development effort and millions of dollars of US government's investment actually. And it has, if you can see that it has evolved over the period. Version 2 was a proof of our concept, means proof of application, and 3 was released to concept of building block. So it has actually, as I said, it has grown, right? So each
Correct.
version, the concepts have come and built. So it is very easy for us to actually operate on a separate basis. So if you go and say that there is no enterprise content at all in the system, you actually can relate and bring all these architectures together and make SLAs together, and it can also be it can be a logical view of the repository, right?
Yep.
So 2011 was the latest version of TOGAF, that is 9 was launched. So so they had a technical corrective applied. So they reevaluated the evolutionary structure, right? And architecture content frame. So each phase had one addition according to the concerns raised.
Got it.
So end user driven. So what it illustrates is that the open in like 93 or something, the open group like observe the customer members' demand for the architecture standards, right? So they wanted a standard. So in 94, they have selected TAFM as a preferred starting point. TAFM, as I said, it's a US defense thing, agency. It was donated by the US Department of Defense. And it had the architecture standard base. That's when it was published, 96, right? So, and slowly as things got add up, and finally in 2011, 9.1.1 was introduced. And what is the scope? Basically, if you see scope, it actually has a lot of business goals. Okay, and it provides a lot of things to do a best practice. It includes ADM, as I said. It is nothing but a tested and repeated process for developing architectures. So there are a lot of tests which are done. And ADM guidelines is nothing but it provides a collection of techniques available for use in TOGAF actually. And architecture content framework is nothing but structural model, right? So you have an architecture, so you have to have a structure model, right? It allows the architects to actually create consistently defined and structured and presented architecture. Shouldn't be not like when you develop itself, you develop it as a product architecture which is actually reusable. It is not like developing something for one particular product. Enterprise continuum, like it is the view of the related architectures, how it evolved. So definitely a company will have architectural evolving, right? So that all those histories are stored in that. And reference model is nothing but it is also a framework. It actually helps in understanding the relationship among the entities, like between standards, one particular standard and another. So you develop consistent standards or specifications supporting environment, and suddenly it changes. So this reference model captures both and makes us understand like what model works the best, or we have to use both models. So that is how reference model is there. Capability framework is nothing but it's completely reference materials on how to establish an architecture function. So what is the capability of the product? What is the capability of the company? How it can develop? To what level it can develop? What materials they will have to do this to develop this framework. So these are all the core concepts actually of TOGAF. So we will see one by one like what are these. And basically TOGAF, the goal of this is basically to have an industry standard architecture. So there are several frameworks actually like Zachman, TIF, DOD framework. All those are there, but TOGAF is actually it's usable. People say that it's usable on its own. Like even if I study this, even though it's theoretical, I have an understanding of what it is, and yes, I feel that it's actually implementable. At least module wise to start with, and enterprise level we cannot means we can think of that level like if you're there, you're as a director, so you can think of like how we can implement it as a framework. From where, as I said, we can start as a module level, and we can do a bottom up approach first, then a top down approach. So whatever works, it is not going to be a cost effective program. It's actually free. So you are open to actually do a research and implement. For example, I know a company which implemented TOGAF uh, uh, with respect to DevOps people. So DevOps people are, yes, you will have a broad things which will be reused, right? So they had a one-click deployments and all those things. So if for everything they created an architecture, this is what we developed. This is what is architecture. So they didn't go with the directly implementation of all those things. That is the main goal. That is the main thing we have to think about when we are like thinking of TOGAF. right? So everything needs to have an architecture. It is not like going and implementing something just because like we need it as a process and we need clients emergency also. Whatever emergency be, I think we need to have an architecture, not IR diagrams, but then yes, we need to at least have an technical architecture, right?
Yep.
So these are the main components. I explained you these. So we will see in depth like what are these. So TOGAF 9, this is the structure of TOGAF documentation that reflects the structure and the content within this one. So part 1 is basically the introduction that provides a high level introduction to the key concepts, right, for the enterprise architecture. Development method, I said, as I said, it's a core of TOGAF. It's a step-by-step approach for developing an enterprise architecture. And guidelines, it is nothing but the techniques and available guidelines that architecture board, for example, gives us for applying TOGAF. And content framework is nothing but it's a structured meta model. Like as I said, the reusable architectures are there, right? So those building blocks we'll actually see and see what can be reused and delivered.
Yep.
Enterprise continuum, I said already. So it is actually storing the outputs of the architecture activity within the enterprise.
Yep.
So reference models is, I said already. So it is nothing but a foundation architecture, and you have also something called as a integrated information infrastructure reference tool. So these both actually provides a reference model, combined reference model. So this we will see in the later point of time where we are discussing in depth. And architecture capability, it sees if you can see that it discusses the organization process, skills, roles, and responsibilities required, all those things to operate this architecture function itself.
Got it.
Yeah. So this is what it is in depth of our TOGAF capability framework. So what happens is like what capabilities, actually capability in general sense, what it is basically what one possesses, right? The ability of what we can do. So it can be, for example, business capability, architecture capability, technical capability, and personal capability. Like how much, for example, personal is like how much I can work. Technical is what technical aspects we can use. So we cannot go and use something very out of the way. So, for example, if I have a company which has a prolonged stay on Python, I cannot go and say market Java. Let's use Java, right? So
Okay,
that is
makes sense.
technical capability. Yeah. So architecture here is nothing but what type of architecture will move at an initial point of time. After that, whatever framework you are doing, you cannot directly go and do a big enterprise architecture, right? You can actually slowly, you have to start implementing. If it is a from the scratch for us, very easy for us to actually implement it. So in TOGAF, the business capability, right? So it actually refers to the ability of the enterprise that enterprise that possesses to provide the services to customers. For example, a bank has a capability to manage their financial transactions, right? That is called business capability. Architecture capability is nothing but like to perform the architectural practices, what the organization need to do. Like if an enterprise does not have an enterprise architecture team and a skilled architecture resources, they cannot run an enterprise architecture project, right?
Correct.
So the enterprise does not process the architecture capability is what we can see. However, if suppose an enterprise has an established team, discipline, and has a funding, skill to everything, then you can run architecture project. So then you can say that it has an architectural capability. Uh, and if you see the image, the TOGAF is actually driven by business vision and drivers only. So the proposed architecture also should be based on this business vision, strategy, goals, and it should not be something which is coming out of the way.
Correct.
This architecture capability framework, it is also like it prepares the enterprise to actually undergo the business means architecture activities. So the first you can see the architect capability, right? So that framework, it actually prepares the enterprise to undertake the activities. So in the ADM, as I said, that it is a step-by-step process to develop and use the enterprise architecture. So business, actually their needs are fed into this ADM actually to develop the architecture basically. So at the end of the ADM cycle, you'll see that new business solutions are delivered, and you can see that they are deployed to support and realize different business capabilities also. For example, a bank is managing a financial transaction also, but they have also come out with a lot of other features in the application. Right now, normally Axis Bank has come up with a scan and pay, even without a need to actually log into the system. So these are all like new business solutions, you can say. And the ADM guidelines and techniques, as I said, it is actually giving a direction of how to use ADM in different scenarios, right? You have an ADM in phase, but you don't know how to use it. There's no point because it is all scenario based. Not
Correct.
all scenarios will match. So it will actually tell you how to use the ADM in different scenarios and how to perform certain tasks. For example, stakeholder management is not same for all the projects. Some stakeholder can be tough, rough, some can be at a very good heart to say that, yeah, this is what I need, this is how you have to implement. So that is how it is. And content as I said, what it will actually define what architecture will look like once it is developed. What is that? It will look like actually. And the enterprise continuum and all, as you know, that we are completely developing an architecture and you're storing that architecture content somewhere. So that is where enterprise continuum is. Tomorrow you're coming back and having the same requirement. You need an architecture. You go to this continuum and see like what works for you. So that is how it is. So ADMs, what is the basic principles of this? So it is nothing but it is like it it allows enterprise coverage. Means it will decide what breadth of enterprise you are going to cover. For example, are you going to cover the entire enterprise, or are you going to do for one or more line of business in an iteration? As I said, you are going to do for a module only. That all comes in this, right?
Yep.
So, and there's something also called level of detail. So you can decide what level of depth you are going to cover. For example, usually when you are covering the entire width, covering the entire depth may not be practical in a migration, right? Due to budget or resource constraints, whatever may be. So at that point of time, these new for every iteration, these new decisions in the following context will be taken. So time horizon is the time they'll decide the time for the completion of each iteration, right? So time horizon is also very important aspect we have to consider. And architecture asset reuse is nothing but what can we reuse from the previous ADMs iterations that you have to decide. So these decisions for each iteration, right, are based on the resource availability, competence, all those things. Got it? So for example, between phase B and C, right? B and D or something, until you have defined a stable and clear target state architecture, there are you can actually iterate multiple times between phases to have a stable and clear target. Okay, so that is the advantage of ADM. Basically, it's an iterative method, and this ADM actually comprises of linked phases also. It has full life cycle management of an architecture, as well as it has an operational deployment, change, planning, everything. So the ADM actually has this requirements management phase at the center, as you saw in the diagram. The other phases are linked to this requirement phase. So each phase is validated against the current requirements for the business. So in addition, every phase validates the current requirements. That is what is understood, right? So we saw, you saw this. So the requirements management, it's actually linked to every phase. So after every phase, you will actually validate with the requirements of the business. If it is like okay, it is in alignment with this, all those things. So now we will move on to the detail aspect of it. So preliminary phase, as you see, this phase is nothing but it's a preparation. Like for example, you have completed OF, you are like willing to implement it. So directly you can't go and set a vision, right? You will first do the preparation. You'll do the kickoff. So
Okay.
there are some things you have to consider. You have to first understand what the business environment is. You have to actually ensure whether the management is okay to commit for this project, whether it is like agreeing to the terms of the stakeholders. For example, you have a project which is only 2 months, right? You can go and do this. But for project which is from the scratch and it's there for a long term, you can actually go and at that business environment you can actually go and do this. So that is how you decide whether this architecture capability we can do for this project or not.
Got it. This is preliminary
And
phase.
this is the preliminary phase. So
Is
if
this
you want,
before even ADM starts, right? Or is it first?
yeah. So this is a part of ADM.
Oh, preliminary. Okay, part of ADM, correct.
So I'll put this here so that you'll understand. So first it is preliminary phase. So which is the initiation and kickoff.
Correct.
So next is the architecture vision. So this is called as a phase A. Okay. So this is the initial phase of architecture development. So first you see all those customization of TOGAF. Yeah, it is going through the organization needs. You establish a governance structure. You do the architecture, establish the architecture principle. You see that the stakeholder is also okay. You see the higher management is also okay. You understand that the business environment is also in favor of this. So all these, if you have done, the preliminary phase is done. So when you're going to architecture vision phase, it is where you actually start the initial phase of ADM.
Correct.
So it
Okay,
includes information about like actually defining the scope, identifying the stakeholders, creating a vision, and obtaining approvals for. So as I said, creating an architecture vision is nothing but it is like it actually provides a sponsor with a key tool to actually sell the benefits of the proposed capability to stakeholders and the decision makers, okay, within the enterprise. So it is nothing but the how the new capability will meet the business goals. That is how you have to see. And also when you're doing it, you also have to address the stakeholders' concern when it is implemented. For example, you're doing something and it goes up to the stakeholders and they are saying that no, we want to tweak this. So that is also a concern from stakeholder which will be implemented in this vision phase itself. Then you will validate the business context in sense like there is something called as a business scenario technique, which is like nothing but it used to actually see the high level requirement and the business context, whether it is matching. You are having a business context and you have a high level requirement which is having a mismatch, you'll not be able to have a vision properly, right?
correct.
And another thing is like you create a statement of architecture work, which means it will help you to assess the product that are required to be produced and by when against the set of business performance requirements, like when should be produced. All those requirements are there, right? So these are called statements. So in architecture vision, it's basically you create a vision, you validate it with the business context, you create a statement of architecture. Statement of architecture, SOA, you say. SOA is nothing but like you see whether the product that you have developed are correct, are aligning with the business, and when are you going to produce that. All those things are aligned. So this is what architecture vision does. So it's actually what it is doing. It is nothing but it's defining the scope. It is identifying, okay, this vision is there, created. It is actually obtaining the approvals in terms of like setting the business context. And it creates okay, these are all aligned. You create a clear statement. Yes, that is aligned. It's been produced. This can be produced by this and this time. So that is what phase A is. Clear? You have any doubts?
No, I think I'm clear now. Phase A.
Yeah. So phase B, you can see business architecture. This is nothing but it is the development of the business architecture, which actually to support an agreed vision. So in the phase A, everyone would have agreed, including the stakeholders. Okay, this is a vision. So business architecture should be developed in accordance with that vision. For example, business architecture, what it describes? It describes a product. It describes a service strategy. It describes the organizational, functional, business process, people, information, and all aspects of the business environment. It is not going to. It has nothing to do with the technical aspect of it. Got it?
So, okay, so vision is just the end goal, and then business architecture is all the stuff that we need to achieve that business without going into
Vision is not end goal. It is like scope.
scope. Okay, vision is scope. Okay, makes sense.
You can like put some notes like architecture vision is nothing but defining the scope, identifying the stakeholders, and creating a vision. Creating a
Can you give
vision.
an example of a vision and difference? I'm just trying to understand the difference between vision and business architect.
Yeah, vision, like it's nothing but it provides the, for example, you want to have a vision of like having a rupee credit card, means a rupee credit card to be accepted in a phone pay.
Okay.
So that is a business vision, right?
Yep.
So what business business context you can say. So architecture vision is nothing but it has to have a proposed capability. If suppose they don't have an infrastructure to actually have because RuPay, it will have a separate domain actually, payment domain. So if that particular thing is not possessed, then the vision is not properly set, right? You have to again go back and say, okay, this vision is not clear. For example, you create a vision saying this RuPay card, credit card should be accepted in UPI. That is your vision. Okay. But when you're like coming to business architecture, that is the architecture vision. In business architecture, so you actually describe that product, how it will be. Yeah, we have something called phone pay. We will actually have the separate payment domain for RuPay credit cards. So that is a business strategy.
Got it. Makes sense.
Vision is nothing but scope defining only, right? So scope, you can, what is the scope? It is basically the requirements, you can say, in very high level way, if you want to say.
Yep, makes sense now.
Yeah. So business architecture is nothing but it actually describes the product. For example, I want to have a phone pay. So I need to, for developing phone pay, it's not a normal thing, right? So in what I have to develop? So I have to develop in a cloud or something, what I have to do. So those are the business aspects. So it also defines the relationship of these concepts, right, with each other. So for example, it shows how the organization will meet the business goal. Right?
Got it.
So my goal is to actually serve the customer to have a RuPay credit card and the phone pay. But how how the organization will meet the goal is what is the architecture you're going to refine. So architecture vision is nothing but defining the scope and aligning it with the business context, because they should have a separate payment domain to actually integrate it. So that is also aligning, and you will create a product. Yeah, this is a product. So that is a statement of architecture, SOA. That is vision. Business architecture, as I said, it will describe the product in terms of business process also, and service strategy also. For example, I'm developing the app. If I'm not having a proper service strategy, right, it will fail. So when you're developing it, you should actually think of all the type of authentication methods. For example, I can give you a very brief example. For example, you're using iPhone, you'll not have fingerprints, right?
Yep.
You'll have only face. So if someone is going and implementing a product which is having only fingerprint, there's no point. It's not aligning with the business.
Correct.
So that is an example I can give you. And so you also have something called as contents. For example, in business architecture phase itself, the information, like there are some information on the concepts that are gathered and linked. For example, you have organization structure. So they are like organization structure is nothing but the resources, right?
Yes.
Each resource will have a goal, objective, measures, and they will all form to be a one single organization unit.
Got it.
And business goals and objectives also, they'll have a high level of statement of intent or the direction for an organization, how this should go. And business functions is nothing but like they deliver the proper capabilities, they work with the organization, but they will not explicitly go and govern or not governed by the organization. But yeah, they will also see whether it is aligning with their along with the business functions itself. We cannot go and do something out of our control, right? So we will have, for example, we are doing something with the payments and all those things. We'll not go and we are actually people who are payment banks field, right? So we cannot go and do something in the manufacturing for the manufacturing industry. So that is what they are saying as a business function. So you have to deliver the business capabilities which have to closely align with the organization. Okay, you cannot go and change the domain itself, right?
Yep.
That is what business services is there. So they support actually the capabilities through an explicit interface actually. So services means like for example, they go and depend on PayPal. They go and depend on whoever they go depend on some database, right? So you'll have some Sybil. You'll get the card details. So all those things are called interfaces, which will all those things are called interfaces, which is nothing but a business service. So all these things are coming under business architecture only.
Got it.
So these are there, and we also have in business architecture we have some steps. Okay, so TOGAF actually defines a step for each of the fields. So what are the steps is like first you have to select a reference model, viewpoint and tools. So for example, there are something called operations, management and financial, right? So for all these things you have to select properly. Management is nothing but you need a 10 member team. Financial is nothing but you have to have a budget management for this project. Operations is nothing but whether you have an infrastructure to do this. So these are all the these are all the these are reference models and viewpoints. And next you have to define the baseline architecture description, which is nothing but how it should be, what is the target state it should be, and what is the baseline it should be. So baseline is nothing but like what is actually ideated. You say that I want to have a RuPay credit card and RuPay phone pay. It's a baseline state what you are giving as a requirement. Okay. Hello.
Okay.
Yeah. So what is the end target state it is achieving? Is it achieving the same thing? So there you have to define a baseline. After actually creating a reference models and all those things, you have to actually describe what business architecture, baseline business architecture is. So this baseline state is called as is state. So whatever is the requirements is the same you're saying. That is the baseline. And after defining the baseline, you have to actually define the target business architecture, which is nothing but the extent necessary that you have to support for this particular vision. So this is called like future state, like to be state. So this is how it's going to be. This is how you are aiming at. So it's going to be. So
Yep.
you have defined the baseline, you have defined the target. So what will be next step is the gap between these two. So you definitely need to perform a gap analysis. So you need to once the baseline target are defined, right? Your gap analysis will be performed. So you are doing all this at this state of the business architecture. And again, after gap analysis, what you will do? You have done the gaps. You have said that these are the gaps we have identified. So to fill these gaps, right? So you create a roadmap. Like how do we fill these components? How do you mitigate this? So this become a part of architecture roadmap itself. Then after doing all this, you'll just present this to the stakeholder and say, see, this is the baseline architecture, this is the target architecture, this is the gap analysis I have done. This is the roadmap for mitigating or for filling these gaps identified. So that will be reviewed by him, and he will build an proper agreement and say, yeah, it's okay, this is fine. So if he is okay, he's kind of okay, then we will finalize that architecture. So the target architecture is finalized by like it's working close with the stakeholders in agreement with them, because if you involve stakeholders on that level only, you will not be going back and forth, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah, makes sense.
after doing the finalizing the architecture and all those things, you actually create a AD, architecture definition document. So this is very important term, architecture definition document. This is actually called as ADD. This is one of
ADD.
the deliverable of this phase. So the business architecture baseline, target architecture descriptions, gap analysis, all these are recorded in the architecture definition document.
Okay, got it.
Right. So this is the output for this business architecture. So if these two are clear, we can move on.